The cell being set apart. Esoterically, the meaning of cells is the structural and functional units, which in reality are is within consciousness. Cells are adjusted one to the other through associated ideas. When sublime love enters into the personal conscious process, every cell is poised and balanced in right order. This is the law, mental, and order, truth, principle in the cell that offers the exactness characteristics defined as a planetary system. The cells represent a microcosm of eternity, acting as sacred organizing units of strands structured within conscious states. Bundled, these strands are considered small rooms, Latin word cellula, for silent inner contemplation, which are functioning as vessels that hold remembrance by maintaining order, truth, against entropy, unavailability of a system's thermal energy for conversion into mechanical work, interpreted as the degree of disorder or randomness in the system. Entropy also is defined as lack of order or predictability, also the gradual decline into disorder. Hebrews 1 verses 10 through 12 states in simple form, the whole world ego is slowly running down because the fallen state has built a certain amount of entropy, disorder into the system. The irreversible tendency of a system toward increasing disorder and inertness. This means the entire fabrication is subject to the natural inevitable tendencies of all systems, physical, conscious, social, unconscious, mental, the subconscious, toward disorder, chaos, and decay over time. Cells are often viewed as living intelligence, designed with agency and purpose, subconscious mirrors. Beyond biology, the cell is a metaphor for the inner sanctuary, where one withdraws from the fabricated illusion in order to connect with the awakened consciousness, the introspective awareness. Cells are seen as repositories of evolutionary expansion, emotional, the senses, and spatial memory, remembrance. Cells store past experiences as memory, creating cellular imbalance, which creates trauma. Awakened consciousness restores balance as wisdom. Entropy within cells represents a fundamental decline. This symbolizes the arrow of time, moving from organized beginnings to disorganized, stagnant, or dead end cells. This is considered a natural tax on the cell. Senescence describes the biological process of growing old, deteriorating, or the state of cells that have permanently stopped dividing but remain metabolically active. These zombie cells accumulate in tissues. But what is most intriguing about senescence is that when traced back to the Latin word senex, it means old and is the word senate. In terms of elimination of the old form of governance, the fall of Rome, if broken down in historical context, and could signify the final stage of its normal lifespan. Certain cultures represent cells as temples. For the Jewish people, there is a parallel here. Bet HaMikdash is the term for the holy house, which refers to a temple in Jerusalem, a separated or isolated building. Its inner space is separated from the environment by its walls. But a deeper meaning is hidden in this literal translation. The cell as the quantum of life. Because the cell is the smallest unit of living, once again, due to the Latin word cellula, or small room, if the world system is a cell encased in a microcosm, then the same concept of entropy may be applied to it. The major characteristics of a cell is it is surrounded by a semi-permeable membrane that separates it from the environment, the purity of consciousness. Science says this separation is necessary for living. Living is defined as that which resists decaying from order to disorder. However, such resistance would contradict the second law of thermodynamics, entropy. All things tend to decay. And disorder tends to increase, except in a living cell which maintains homeostasis or steady state by working hard to defeat decay. This is only possible in an isolated system, which may be the point of its design in order to have an ending. Now the scripture regarding being set apart comes into view with clarity. Set apart in scripture is sanctification, which means being consecrated by truth for a holy purpose, distinct from the temporariness of the world's way. Key verses include being chosen as a special treasure, Deuteronomy 7:6, consecrated before birth, Jeremiah 1:5, and called to be holy in conduct, living by consciousness, not worldly standards. Leviticus 20:26, Romans 12:1-2, 1 Peter 2, verse 9, 2 Corinthians 6:17. All encourage, set apart as purpose and identity, as a special treasure chosen by Charis, which means grace, is the action, sanctification, renewal of consciousness, and distinction, humility, devotion, and trust. Here, the structural parallel between the temple, external, and a living cell, one set apart, is beginning to emerge, since the material structure of the one set apart, where every cell contains a cytoskeleton, a series of interior fibers that connect the cell nucleus to the cell membrane wall. The cytoskeleton supports and keeps in place the various organelles within the cell. The Jewish people liken this as parallel to the interior of architecture of the external temple, with its various rooms and areas designated for different purposes. Here we can see the world ego distortion from the truth meaning of one who has been set apart. This one is a cell, a temple, and contains a nucleus, holy of holies. In a cell, the nucleus contains the double-stranded DNA. Cellular DNA contains the genetic code. DNA is isolated from the cytoplasm, the intracellular fluid, in order to separate genetic material from cellular debris, such as proteins, lipids, and RNA. The key reasons for DNA isolation is removal of contaminants that can degrade or interfere with DNA analysis. The nucleus acts as a vault involving purification and precipitation, concentrating DNA. One set apart as a cell signifies a place where truth reveals the mysteries. The set apart is the microscopic powerhouse, mitochondria. She doesn't just produce energy, but holds the key to enhanced consciousness and gnosis, direct experience. The set apart is not the personality, but the awakened consciousness, the energy currency powering every cellular function. The awakened consciousness as mitochondria is fascinating due to her unique position within one's cellular structure. A. She possesses her own DNA, separate from the nuclear DNA. B. She generates not just higher consciousness, but actual measurable light as knowledge in the form of biophoton, enlightened. C. Her consciousness directly correlates with time, space, and the righteous heiress, Avatara. D. She responds remarkably to a specific personality intervention. The set-apart cell may feel as if she is falling apart due to an increase of such high concentration from the robustness of mitochondria. The cell, one who has been set apart, now resides within eternity, longevity, light, and consciousness, and severe discomfort comes with this expanded awareness. But the personality's role is to just stay focused on truth. The biophotonic light, GNOSIS, direct experience. This light emission isn't just metaphorical, but is the actual in expression. This expanded consciousness link relies heavily on mitochondria, awakened consciousness function, where potential vast reservoirs housing thousands of mitochondria's network is infusing the awakened consciousness with deeper abilities of perceiving, perception, and solar experiences. Now the awakened consciousness is enhanced by mitochondria's cellular power plants through practical evidence-based approaches. 1. Movement practices. Biogenesis is triggered, involving efficiency in existing ones. 2. Righteous heirs is the real heir. Avatar. 3. Awakened consciousness gathers and draws down specific functions that optimally protect from external damage. 4. The personality is the grounding that supports. Mitochondrial functioning within the awakened consciousness. This invokes the presence as love, which influences the cellular function throughout the root system of the righteous heirs. Gratitude to the selflessness of allowing the state of being a cell, one set apart, and the singular focus on soul, the only presence. This is the integrated approach, which gives vitality, clarity, and connection. Now, the cell is optimized with improved cellular biochemistry that enhance the fundamental consciousness that powers one's experience. So the presence